All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our graphic design info session today. My name is Gary. I work for Art and Design Department, supporting graphic design, UX UI, visual arts, interior design, and interior architecture programs. My background is in fine arts, and I have worked in graphic design, branding, UX design, prior to joining a UC Berkeley extension. So with us today is Ivan Trujillo, specializes in packaging design, branding, and UX design, worked with Kimberly-Clark Corporation, Acuity Brands, Nice Limited, and Atheum IDEO. He also a freelance designer and has worked with Dunghill, Puma, Safeway, Lexus, Samsung, Emory University, and Marion Jager Skin Care. Yvonne is currently a program director of graphic UX and interactive design at UC Berkeley Extension. He will be presenting this info session this afternoon. We also have Steve as our guest speaker today as well. He will be doing his introduction as well. So during our presentation, you could drop your question in a Q&A box, which is on the bottom of the screen, and we have a few pause points to answer any questions you may have. And without further delay, I will let Yvonne to go over the presentation.
Thank you, Gary. Hi, everyone. Welcome to UC Berkeley Extension. As Gary mentioned, I am a graphic designer, UX designer, and I'm the program director here at the UC Berkeley Extension. So we're gonna take you to a journey on how our program works. And also we have some other panelists, our instructors that might be joining us, for a few minutes to explain about their courses. So we want you to hear, like different perspectives, different points of view. And then we also will show you some samples of student work during this presentation. All right, so let's talk about the competitive environment for graphic designers. They are in high demand. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects a 4% growth rate for graphic designers, visual designers from now until 2026. Like that percentage changes within time. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower, but that's the way, like all the industries behave. So here is what we recommend you to do, right? Like if you have a bachelor's degree, that's highly recommended, plus our professional program in graphic design, will lead you to job opportunities. And those job opportunities are represented in, like different type of positions, from junior graphic designer or graphic designer, production artist, production designer, digital producer, visual designer, illustrator, infographics designer, brand designer, package, and interactive designer. So there's many different opportunities that the program will lead you to in conjunction with the degree that you might have. Your degree to find a job in the industry doesn't necessarily need to be in graphic design, and that's why this program is in existence to help you like in a short manner, in a short period of time, to accomplish those goals. Some of you might be changing industries, some of you might be coming to us to like improve skills and whatnot. So there are different goals that people have in mind when joining our program. So here is the lobby in our San Francisco campus. Just, like wanted you to see that. However, at this moment, we are hosting all our classes live online through Zoom. So what that means is that like we are not going back to campus yet. So we are here in order to meet your needs, right? As a student, as I was saying before, some of you come here for career change, another one's for career advancement, to develop fundamental skills in design, to learn theory and practice of graphic design, and to create a professional portfolio. So this is a moment to pause for a little bit, and in case you have any questions, any comments, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A, and Gary will read those questions, and both of us will be able to answer them.
Yeah, so drop your questions in the Q&A box, and we can answer them right away. Yes, so there's a question. Will the classes be recorded?
The answer to that, that's up to the instructor. You know, most of them do it, but they are not, it's not a requirement by the university to record all of those different classes, because it is understood that it's live online in person. So you will be meeting your instructor on a weekly basis. And the treatment that the university is giving to our courses is like if you were in the classroom at that particular moment. So instructors are not obligated to do it, but a lot of them, you know, record those sections and share them with students.
Yeah, another question we have is, if we return to in-person class, will it be held in SF campus?
The answer to that is yes. The courses will be held in our San Francisco campus.
And if we're unable to attend one class due to travel, etc., will we be able to catch up or ensure that we stay on track?
Yes, normally what happens is that when one is, you know, like traveling for business, or one falls ill for any reason, you'll be able to catch up. You have your course syllabus, you have the course materials that are given to you during the first session. And it's, you know, up to you to get caught up with your classmates, you know, and if there's a recording available or anything like that, by all means, you know, like you can get caught up fully that way.
Do you need a bachelor's degree to enroll into the program?
You don't need it, but we highly recommend it because a lot of companies request to have a bachelor's degree to enter the field.
How many students are currently enrolled in the first class?
It varies. It changes from semester to semester, maximum 24, minimum 8, and the average is sort of 18 students per course.
Can this program be completed entirely online for out-of-state students?
Yes.
And I think we're doing very good with our Q&A, so we're going to move on with our presentation. Again, we have another pause point in the mid of our presentation, so keep them coming.
So at the moment for the program, we have 7 required courses, and it takes 1 to 2 years to complete the program. The program can be done part-time or full-time. Full-time meaning taking 4 courses in the first semester and 3 courses on the second semester. It can also be done part-time by taking 1 to 2 courses during those, like 2 years. And then what that leads you at the end, when you finish successfully the 7 required courses, the university will issue you a certificate that you have earned in graphic design. And so I'm going to explain a little bit about the courses that are the required ones. So we start the program with visual design principles, in which you're going to learn the different design principles. You're going to learn color theory. You're going to learn essentials of typography, and for the most part, layout design. How do you like convey images and text, and how placement works, and all of the different specifics into making a layout that is successful. So like your visual design instructors will explain that to you. We do it through lectures for the most part, and with supporting like demos and videos, podcasts, and like different materials that we craft in order to put together our courses. And then by the end of the semester, you've finished with a logo design for that course, and also like a corporate identity system that has a letterhead, a business card, and an envelope, and also the layout, the look and feel of a website or an application that you design throughout the course. And then I'm gonna give Steve and other instructors like a chance to explain about the courses like down further when we get to the instructors. But in the meantime, the second course will be Illustrator 1, the third course will be InDesign, then Typography Fundamentals, Photoshop 1, Web Design with HTML5 and CSS3, and Graphic and Web Design Portfolio. So like we'll give you a little bit of more information about each of those courses in a little while. Let me just give him 1 second over here. I hear some noise through my window, so I'm gonna close that. Sorry about that. We are still working from home, and like dogs and humans and all kinds of distraction happen, as you are accustomed to that these days. Here we also have some different courses that we call them courses for further advancement. And so like these courses are located below the required courses on the website, and we will take you to the website towards the end of the presentation so that we can show you, how to navigate and all of that. So we have Adobe Digital Tools, Essentials of Motion Graphics, 2D Animation and Video Editing, Illustrating Children's Books, Branding, and also an internship that can be coordinated with our career development office. And I will take you to the website towards the end to show you that. Also, we have courses for further advancement in UX design in case you might be interested on that. There's the Essentials of User Experience Design, User Interface, Diagramming and Prototyping, Accessibility in UX Design, Human-Centered Design, and Design Thinking. So those are different courses that can support your journey as a student, and also like depending of the type of skills that you would like to acquire. By the way, like all the images that you're seeing in these presentations, are made by former students of the program. And so these pictures are credited towards the end of the presentation. And here is, like our technology recommendations to have a laptop computer. It can be a MacBook, like it doesn't matter like the number of inches. It can be a small, medium size, depending on what your preference is. The only thing that we recommend is that the computer should be at least 16 gigabytes of memory RAM, because you're gonna be doing computer graphics, and that takes a lot of RAM, and the more memory RAM that you're gonna have, the faster your machine is going to operate. And then it can be also a PC with similar capabilities as explained above. Normally in the graphic design industry, like studios, offices, they're gonna work with Apple products. And so that's what we recommend. It's not mandatory, but that's how the industry normally like works. And also, we highly recommend you to like get the Adobe membership for the students, that it's $19.99 per month. And that's, think about that if you were going to a gym, right? Like you become a member, you have to pay sort of like a monthly fee to attend that gym. And the same thing happens over here. All of the software used in graphic design, it's owned by Adobe. And so whether an instructor is teaching a course, or a student is taking a course, or a professional is using the Adobe software, we all have to pay up a membership. Also, like, it's good to test your layout, your designs. You can do it through a printer, such as a Canon, Epson, or HP Office Jet. But the key thing with this is that the more cartridges that machine has, the better results you're gonna obtain. And so even though you will be submitting everything online to your instructors, it's good to test those to ensure that you have, like the right color and the right results, because that's what is expected in the industry. Sometimes when we just choose color from the machine, like it might not be fully accurate because the machine pushes light, right? And everything is more vibrant. And also like our eyesight like changes within time, and also changes from person to person. And so like when you're having the tangible results printed in your hands, then you're gonna know what it looks like after being like printed professionally. And so here are some instructors that you're gonna be learning from. We have Aleka Edgeworth, who's a senior motion designer and a DEI advocate, and also an educator. She works at Sinusoid Creative Agency and teaches essentials of motion design. We have Steve Werner, that you're gonna be hearing pretty soon from him. He's an educator, trainer, author, and publisher at Adobe Systems Incorporation. And then he teaches Illustrator, InDesign, and Adobe Digital Tools. Tom Gary, he's a creative director at Carey & Kelly, and he teaches visual design and also portfolio course. Nicolas Gutierrez, it's a freelance photographer and educator and works for himself at Net Gutierrez Photography, teaches Photoshop and Adobe digital tools in conjunction with Steve. So they co-teach that course. Dr. Shelley Grunler, she's a typographic consultant and creative learning strategies at TypeCan and teaches typography.
And Shirley is also with us today, so she'll be talking about her course as well.
Thank you. Ian Bolden, he's a motion designer and educator at Google and teaches explainer videos and sound design. Shoaib Ali Qureshi, he's a senior art director, freelance animator and educator at Digitas and teaches 3D animation and visual effects course. Victoria Riola, it's a creative art director and an educator, works for herself at Riola Creative, and she teaches typography fundamentals. Josh Halstead, it's a senior manager, brand activist, educator, and author, and works at Design Matters and teaches visual design. Julie Downing, it's a freelance illustrator, author, and educator, works for herself at Julie Downing Illustration, teaches illustrating children's books. And then Ivera Karpatiova, she's an animator, illustrator, director, and educator, works for herself also, teaches 2D animation and video editing. Nancy Cutler, she's a creative director at Midnight Oil Incorporation and teaches visual design and portfolio. Ujas Moses is a founder, visual and UX designer at UMS Design Studio and teaches portfolio. And myself, I teach portfolio, visual design, and packaging. And I'm gonna pause here for a little bit and show you this project by one of Nicolas' students. Nicolas again teaches Photoshop. So I wanna show you what students end up doing by the end of the semester. And then Steve will go next, and then Shelley. And so let's see the work of Batul Alamed. And so the course has a component of designing a book cover, and I'm just gonna show you the visuals. I'm gonna show you the graphics. And when we start this course, like not many people have touched Photoshop or any of the Adobe software or had very little experience. And so I want to show you like the progress that people end up doing. So like the book cover has the front cover, the spine, and also the back cover. And students work with composite. So you can see over here like that these two images were merged into creating the composition that you see on the right-hand side. And, you know, here are like the technical skills that the person used, like double exposure, masking, gradient map, black and white, color, and then curves. And then the joining of the images, and you end up with that kind of result. Then there's a magazine cover where you're gonna have also like front and back cover and a spine. And so, you know, we'll teach you like a little bit of hierarchy, like what goes into the masthead, which is sort of the logo for the magazine, and layout page layout. and by the end of the semester, you mock this up, like they're flat designs that appear on your screen, but at the end of the semester, you did sort of mock-ups to make them look, like realistic in a way. And then here is the final project, which is a post-ad campaign. And so I'm just like, I will show you at the end, like the kind of composite that the student did in order to create this project. Normally you choose an artist and artworks from your favorite art period, and Nicholas will walk you through, and then you end up doing composites like this. So like, this is an ad for a brand, a tea. And so you see this coffee mug over here that wasn't necessarily, like a part of the artwork itself, like back in the day. And here is a second piece, like holding a different sort of like coffee mug. And this is the third piece. And so on this slide, you can see the originals on the bottom, and then you can see the composites up top. So take a look at the position of the hand over here, no cup, and then all of a sudden the hand goes up and it's holding a cup that wasn't in there. And also this hand was, like along the body, and then all of a sudden both arms are flexed, holding the coffee mug. And the same thing over here. You can see like the position of the hands right here and how they change to be a part of this. And the same on the third one, right? Like there wasn't even an arm in there. And then all of a sudden the lady is holding this other like coffee mug. So like that's sort of like the work that you will be doing during class, where we will walk you step by step towards, like accomplishing those kind of results. And I'm gonna stop sharing over here, and I'm gonna give Steve a moment to present. So Steve, you can share your screen.
It says host has disabled participant screen sharing.
Hold on. Give me 1 sec.
I just make you co-host, Steve. You can share now.
Okay, good.
And I will do that first.
So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Steve Warner, and I teach 3 of the classes at Berkeley Extension. I'm teaching 2 of the required classes, the classes that are required for the graphic design program, the Illustrator class and the InDesign class. But I'm also co-teaching with Nicholas Gutierrez, the Adobe Digital Tools class. And so those basically fall in the category of what I call Adobe's core applications. That is to say, they are the earliest applications that Adobe developed. They are the most integrated. They are also probably the most desired by employers in terms of work and stuff like that. Most employers sort of expect you have some knowledge of InDesign, Illustrator, and Photoshop. And so we combined those 3 into the Adobe Digital Tools class, which I'll tell you about towards the end of the presentation. So I'm going to try to keep this short, given the fact that I'm covering 3 classes today. So let me just talk about Illustrator first. Illustrator is one of the required classes. This is a 10-week session. And I also want to mention that all of the classes that I'm talking about here are recorded. Someone is asking about whether the classes are recorded or not. We record all of these classes, so if you did miss part of a session or something like that, it's easy to watch it. It also makes it easy to practice again from the recording if you want to do that. So I've been teaching the Illustrator class since 2019, and I wanted to talk about what Illustrator is because some of you may not quite understand the difference between some of the Adobe applications. Illustrator is actually the oldest program that Adobe has made. It actually started developing and releasing Illustrator in 1987, which is like 35 years ago. What it does is it focuses on what's called vector art, which is art made up of paths, so that you can rescale them. You can it doesn't have any resolution. You can use it either at a larger size or a smaller size, and you don't lose any quality. So there's certain kinds of art that are particularly useful to do in vector art, things like logos and icons and infographics and realistic product art. All of those work the best when they can be created in vector art. So that's what we cover in the Illustrator class. Because Illustrator has been around a long time, they have developed a very many tools for creating that kind of art. And so this is a list of the different tools and stuff that we cover in the Illustrator class, all of which help create that type of art. So I'm not going to try to read all of this, but I'm just going to hit the main points. Of the objective of the class basically is to work on your vector drawing skills, and especially to master the pen tool, which is one of the most difficult tools to learn, and yet it's also one of the most important tools to learn. It's also integrated as well into Photoshop and InDesign. Both of those use the pen tool as well. So that's one of the main aims when I teach that class, is to make sure that you feel comfortable using the pen tool. But we also cover other tools and panels. You learn how to do a sketch, which you can refine and then turn into high quality vector art. In the class, after you spend some time getting familiar with the tools, learning the pen tool and the shape tools and things like that, the first assignment you'll be doing a logo redesign. You'll be taking a design from a brand and coming up with a new design for it. And I'm going to show you some examples of this from the students in just a second. Another one will be to create a set of icons, and the icons are going to be used in an infographic, which is a very graphical way of displaying information about a brand or a company. And then we'll be creating a realistic drawing, and then an original logo. And on the last day of class, you'll be doing a presentation of what you've created during the class. So here's some examples of a couple of logos that people from the class have redone. So the current logo is shown on the left, and the logo redesign is shown on the right. Here are some examples of infographics, and infographics almost always include icons, and so the icons that you develop are used in the infographic as a way of creating a graphical and compelling way of getting information. And one of the more interesting projects is to create a realistic art example. It's an interesting one because this was a drawing that was created of a coffee pot back in the 2020 class, one of the 2020 classes. And this student has now gone through the graphic design program, has created a portfolio. And as she did that, she took her original drawing of the realistic drawing of the coffee pot and turned it into an entire multimedia ad campaign. And that's one of the things that's oftentimes done in portfolios, is to create that kind of an ad campaign, starting with artwork you've created originally in Illustrator. Here are some examples of original logos. So the students have a chance to choose whatever topic they want, whatever company they want. Oftentimes these are companies they're making up for themselves or for somebody they know, and they can choose anything they want just as a way of trying out their skills on creating a logo from scratch. So those are the Illustrator examples. On the last day of class, the students will do a presentation where they're going to take all of the assignments that they've created during the class, and they show them to the fellow students, and they talk about how they created them and why they created them, what they did, and things like that. So the other class that's part of the required classes for the graphic design program is the InDesign class. So let's talk about what InDesign is good for. So InDesign is what I call a precision layout program. It's used for professional publishing, but these days it can also be used for many other things. Digital publishing, you can create PDF files and EPUB files for digital books. You can post something on a website, an Adobe website called Publish Online. And so what it does is InDesign has capabilities that are not in the other Adobe applications. You can create a true precision layout where it's with great accuracy that you need for high quality printing. It uses the highest possible typography. So that's really your premier program for creating good type. Lots of times InDesign documents are longer than like an Illustrator document or file, for example. And so you want to have what are called master pages, where you put things like your margins and your columns and your guides and your grids and page numbers and repetitive items on the master page, and then they can be replicated on different pages in the publication. InDesign highly uses styles, and that's really important both for efficiency, but also for editability. And oftentimes InDesign projects are worked on with other people, and having a set of styles makes it a lot easier. It's the industry uses industry standard importing. So InDesign allows you to place Illustrator and Photoshop images as well. It has special tools for long documents, and it uses the same tools that Illustrator does for working with paths. And as I said, it's also used for creating digital publishing, because lots of times people now are wanting to get something in a digital format rather than just printed. And the main things we teach in the class are, of course, the essential features of Illustrator, but we're also focusing on design principles, on constructing the files efficiently and effectively, and also following industry standards so that if you send this off to a printing company, they'll be able to reproduce it well. So they usually start with a few weeks of working on simple projects, just learning the tools. The first project they will turn in will be a postcard, very simple postcard. We work on a resume so people can learn some of the text tools, type tools they need to work with. And then the two main projects they're going to work on are a midterm project, which is a two-sided 3-panel brochure. I'll show you examples of these in just a minute. And the last project of the class is a magazine layout. And so here's a couple of examples of the front and back of a 3-panel brochure from some of the students. And here's another example of a midterm project for a 3-panel brochure. And here's covers from a couple of the magazines a few years ago. And here is a cover and also an inside spread from another magazine layout. So they have like 3 or 4 weeks to work on these because they're learning all the skills they need to do long documents. They're learning how to do tables of contents and a bunch of features that they can't use so much in smaller documents. And on their final class, they will show off their magazine to the entire class and talk about the process of putting it together. So the third class, and this is the one that I co-teach with Nicholas, is called Adobe Digital Tools. So this is different because it is 16 sessions, so it's a long class, but we're teaching 3 different applications. And I'll talk in my last slide about why you might want to take a class like this. And so it's basically going to give you a less deep introduction to Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign tools, and yet it gives you a lot of the key things that you need to use those tools. Even though you may not get the depth of the full class, you'll learn basically the way they work. It's a much more defined way of learning rather than what people oftentimes do when they're learning a new program. They're doing Google searches and they're looking at YouTube videos. But here we can actually tell you what the really important things are you need to know about the ways these programs work, even in 5 weeks. And so here's some examples. You'll notice that some of these duplicate what Nicholas did. These are Photoshop assignments that were done in the class, a book cover and a magazine cover, as also working with web and mobile designs as well. In the Illustrator section, we focus on brand logo redesign and icons, and also showing off some of the Illustrator tools that we could teach in the class, how to create an Illustrator drawing. And then in the InDesign portion, they create a 4-page flyer and also a multi-page document. So they have a chance to really learn some of the ways that InDesign can use its power. So just to make it clear, the difference between the Photoshop, InDesign, and Illustrator classes and the digital tools class. While it's a longer class, you're learning 3 different applications. The depth of the InDesign, Photoshop, and Illustrator classes are deeper, and they give you more practice, and they also are better aligned if you wanted to create a portfolio, because you have the practice and the time so that you can really learn the tools really well. The digital tools class is moderately extensive instruction, but it's more aimed for things like, say you're not quite sure how much you want to get into the graphic design programs, but you'd like to get a sampling, you'd like to learn some of these tools, or for some of you, you may want to just be increasing your graphic tool set. So taking that program, Adobe Digital Tools, is a good way to do that. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Let me stop sharing.
Yes, please. And Shelley, you will be next, and then Aleka. Hi, Shelley, it's good to see you.
Okay, let's see. Am I allowed to share? Is it all cool? Let's see. Yep, I think I'm sharing. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So just to let you know, the Q&A, I see that there's questions up there. If you have any on typography, I'll answer them after my presentation. I think there's some other ones up there that I'm not able to answer. So I'm Shelley. I am a typographer, and I took my first typography class in 1986, which is kind of frightening, and I learned the old way. But what we do is we talk about lots of different aspects of what typography is. I'm not necessarily going to go through a lot of those. You can look up my name. I gave a TEDx talk ages ago, and there's a couple other talks that I've given you can find online. But what I generally want to say is that what I do in this class, I hope you see it more than I tell you what to do with it. So I help you learn how to think about it as well. So the cool thing about type is you've seen it all your life and you think you know it, but you don't. So in this class, it actually slows down your eye and helps you learn to connect how you see this stuff versus what you do with it. And it's not an easy class. It is a challenging class, but I guarantee you, you get your money's worth out of it. That is an absolute promise, and it is not a waste. It's neither a waste of your time nor a waste of your money. Usually about week 4 to 5 is when students say, oh, yeah, I really noticed some stuff that just sucks, and now I'll never not see it. And that's my gift to you all if you take this class, is that you won't be able to unsee typography. We're all normal people. This is just a random screenshot of a random class. They look like you. There's no brilliant people. We're all just normal, and they're all learning their way through what it is. A lot of times people think that typography is the classical approach, but it's not. There's a lot of other things you can do with it. However, you need to know some of the basics. And these are some parts of the letters. And we do this on the very first day. We learn how these things are structured, why they're structured. We learn all these really silly names that are super great to impress people at parties with. And it was in the New York Times crossword yesterday, there was a typographic term. And yes, some of the students got it right. And so once you learn those things, then you start to kind of get to stretch out. So we have a type design project, which is what I'm going to show you images of. This is a student who experimented with rice, and she used that as the medium for her letter forms. And you can see some of the evolution. The top right are photographs of where she started, and then the bottom right is where she ended. It also does kind of look like bugs. We are aware of that. But there was a lot she could do with the idea of gradating. And she actually started, the first letter she started with is that A, and that A in Yakko on the bottom right. That's the idea that she got, that she was able to extrapolate onto her other letters. This is not an easy project. It is challenging, but boy, is it rewarding. And that's a guarantee right there. This is a student who created this typeface based on her experimentations with staples. And again, we were just using everyday items, seeing what is possible, what happens when you rethink what form could be. And this student, while you might look at, you know, the H and say, and the I, oh, okay, yeah, kind of normal. But look at that R, look at that elegance. Look at that wacky old S and that Z. Man, it's some cool shit. So you can really like evolve a bit with where you take things. And just so you know, she actually got her main refining from black letter, that kind of heavy Gothic look stuff. And that's where she got that beautiful old K. So she totally won the K award in our class. That was just the best K ever. And this is not based on a household object. It actually started from a paperclip, but then she got so fed up with paperclip, she just threw it across the room and just went totally digital. And she came up with this beautiful, eloquent concept that is actually kind of bonkers. And if you look closely, look at that O. Man, that's some crazy stuff. It's kind of mirror image. And you see the A, B, C, D, it works really great. The N, O, P, Q, yeah, great. And then look at that F and that S and that T. She starts getting some weird stuff happening. So this is where the challenge is. You get a design that works really well for some letters, and then with this Latin alphabet, you get some stuff that makes no sense whatsoever. And that's the challenge. And if you do it right, it looks like it should be. And that T and that S look like it should be. So I won't go into too many details, but I did ask a student today what she would tell other students that were scared of typography or thinking of it. And this is what she wrote. And this is truly what I do try to do, is I try to help you learn how to learn. And I specialize in helping adults teaching. In my free time, I teach typography to adults. So this is like who I am. So I help you learn how to learn about type, but I also help you learn what to do with it. And it can be the coolest thing ever. And it will bug you because you're going to see those signs or logos that are just going to always bug you for the rest of your life, and you're welcome. But this will help you, because in the industry, you can be a good designer with good typography, but you'll never be a great designer without great typography. You absolutely need it. And good luck. And hopefully I'll see you in my class sometime. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. And Aleka, you are next. Good to see you, Aleka.
Good to see you too. Let me go ahead and share. Whoops. Okay, you can all see that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
1 second. I'll be super quick. So, hi, I'm Aleka, and I am teaching Essentials of Motion Design, fairly new class. So I'm just going to give a little rundown on myself and motion design and what the class is about. First, intro on myself. I'm Aleka. I'm a motion designer. I've had a good many years of experience in creative content, from social media to broadcast to experiential design, all sorts of things. A few places I've worked. I have an extensive history in sports, so like Atlanta Dream, Atlanta's WNBA team, Turner Sports, ESPN, blah, blah, blah. There's my website if anybody wants to check stuff out. Great, wonderful. So now we can move on to what is motion design? So when I tell people I'm a motion designer, the biggest question, the first question I get is, what is motion design? The easiest way to answer that I answer is by saying it's graphic design plus animation. This is an example of a logo that I was given and animated for the Warriors. So that's pretty much, that's the basic, like the very basic description of what motion design is. So the class that I'm teaching, it would be for people who are like interested in animation and design. And you can do a scope of things with like motion design. Like you can do the very basic, swoop in, or very basic like transform elements. You can do character animation. You can do 3D animation. You can do 2D. You can do logo animation. You can do so much with motion design. I would say this class is ideal for students who are already interested in design, who kind of want to take their skills to the next level, or people who are interested in, the way I got into motion design was like, I used to watch TV and I used to wonder, how did they make that move? How does that work? How do you take an image and do that with it? Like, it was very curious. So I would say like motion design is definitely for people who are very curious about, if you're curious about animation, if you're curious about logos, if you're curious about making things move, motion design is a great way to explore that curiosity, right? So I just have a list of like some example careers for motion design, but there are so many different areas where you can use motion design. Like I mentioned, like I did broadcast and social media, but you can also get into UI UX. A lot of people are looking for UI and UX designers who also know some, like a thing or two about animation. So highly recommend. There's also presentation and experience animation. So like if you've ever been to a basketball game or some kind of football game and you saw like all these flying like images and text and video and stuff, and got you extremely hype about the attendance, that a motion designer sat and did that. So that's motion design. Like I said, you can get into animation, as in like character animation, compositing, concept design, there's all sorts of areas where you can utilize motion design. I definitely feel like motion design is just a giant plus on your resume. Like anytime someone's like learns I can animate, the reaction is always, oh. So I feel like it's a giant plus to have. So in my class, we're learning, it's the essentials of motion design. So we're learning a little bit of everything, just enough, some of them just enough for you to dabble, get some experience, and prepare you to dabble in it even more. And then we also get a really good sense of just like the basics. So for motion design, we mostly use After Effects. So we'll be working mostly in After Effects, with some working in Photoshop and Illustrator. But for this class, those like learning how to use Photoshop and Illustrator is like a requirement. But then we get into like the pre-production process, how to take things from step 1 to step 10, just so that you're not like overwhelmed. In animating, we go through like the principles, text, shape, sound, like we touch character animation, we touch compositing, we touch 3D tools, we touch expressions, and so much more. Sometimes stuff comes up and we touch on those too. But the basic project setup is that every week we're working on something that will lead to either midterm or final project. So each week we're slowly working towards like our goals and the completion of a moving project, which is very, very, very exciting. So I think that's about it. Is that it? Yes. So if there's any questions, you can let me know.
Thank you, Aleka. Gary, let's pause over here for a second and see if there are any questions in the Q&A box.
Yeah,
And-
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and then that way we can continue.
Okay, so one of the questions is that I live out of state. Is this still an option for me if I cannot return back to in-person class?
The courses are gonna be taught, live online. So like we're welcoming everyone, and the moment that we accept anybody into our program, we're not gonna let you hang in. So like you will be able to finish the program.
So there's a question that an observer, I noticed visual design principles and InDesign are both offered in September, while Illustrator is offered in October. Even though it disrupts the order a bit, can I take an Illustrator after InDesign?
Like the courses appear, like the way the courses appear on the website, we want you to follow that order, but at the same time, the courses can be like 4 courses can be taken concurrently. So like if you look at that list, like 1 through 4, like regardless of when they begin in the semester, they can be taken that way. So like, even if visual design principles starts before the Illustrator, it's totally fine to start Illustrator in October.
So how?
Gary, one comment. Are there any questions for our panelists, for Steve, Aleka, or Shelley? Because I would like them to answer those, and then off they can go to do their own things.
Yeah, there's actually a question for Steve. Is an iPad Pro with a pencil good to use for Illustrator?
Actually, no. You need to have a full computer version of Illustrator because they don't have exactly the same tool set. You could use an iPad for doing sketching if you were sketching out some things, but for a lot of our stuff, you would have to have the computer version of Illustrator, which you would get if you had access to the Creative Cloud.
And do you need iPad and stylus to be in a class?
You don't need a stylus.
Okay. And I think that's all the course-related questions we have.
Okay, so here a quick comment. If you have a question for Shelley Waleka, this is the right moment to like place those questions.
There's a question about Saturday classes there, Ivan, I can answer. The type class that I'm teaching is currently on Saturdays, but I don't know if you have plans for other things.
Yeah, there's a class with Steve, so he can also like answer that.
No, I think the question is, do the days that they're offered change every semester?
Oh, yeah, so sometimes they change. Like typography at the moment, we are offering it on a Saturday. And sometimes like we switch stuff in Illustrator from like Saturday to Tuesday. And then like his Tuesday class will be on Saturday the following semester. And so like, yeah, the idea is that we switch the content here and there. Thank you.
So any
Well, I want to take Aleka's class. I just have to say that. So,
You can join this semester.
We might have to do a type in motion class. That would be super fun.
I would love that.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Thank you. Thanks for letting us speak. And if anybody has any questions, they can email me via you there, Ivan.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
Thank you for our guests.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Be safe.
We're gonna still continue for a few minutes over here. For those of you that are, like wanting to learn more about the program. So let me go back to the presentation, share my screen. And Gary, you're next.
All right. So our program is currently remote learning with 2 instructional types. One is live online and fixed day online. So we're going to go into the differences between them. So live online courses are, if you will, are alternative to in-person classes. The only difference is obviously via Zoom in a virtual space. Typically live demos, lectures are not recorded. And of course, recordings are always as instructor's discretion. So like Steve records his, and you can always catch up through his recordings, but it's not mandatory by our university. So you would meet with our instructors and classmates weekly at scheduled dates and times. So typically our courses are 3 hours per class per session. So you would meet with your instructors and classmate in a Pacific Standard Time. So your live participation, for instance, is also part of the grading criteria in the course. So you would need to be, your attendance and engagement are part of the overall evaluation as well. Now, outside of live sessions, you would interact with your instructors and classmates via our learning management system called Canvas. So the other instructional type that we have is fixed date online. So these courses are pre-recorded courses. So you get the pre-recorded materials along with predetermined assignments and due dates during your enrollments at your convenience at any given day and time or any given period, as long as you're within that enrollment period. You would also interact with your instructors and students through discussion boards, for instance, via our learning management system, Canvas again, or emails. And our instructors are instructed to answer any inquiries, feedbacks, for instance, or any questions you may have within 48 hours. Next slide, please.
And just one comment about the fixed day online courses. The visual design principles is the only course that we have as a fixed date at the moment. The other courses are live online through Zoom. One more thing, Gary, we know that it's a little bit over 1 p.m. If you have the time and you can stick around, by all means, stay with us. But otherwise, we will send you a recording of this in the next couple of days after our media team does their part.
So what is the next step? So obviously register for the program. I hope you're inspired by all of our guests today and all the course content we just have introduced. Register the program by submitting a non-refundable online registration fee, which is $100 to be officially in the program. So that allows our registrar office to track your progress and review your the program requirements to ensure that all the courses are met with a letter grade of C or better. And also that also covers the cost of certificate and also other admin fees charged by our registration when you finished the program. Next slide. So our graduates. So this program provides our students with the competitive hard skills and obviously the knowledge to enter into the design field. And Yvonne will introduce some of our graduates and what they have done since completing the program. Next slide. So these are our graduates, and I will hand that back to Yvonne.
So we have Susanna Stevens. She is a visual designer at Serena and Lilly. Also in these 2 slides, you're gonna see their website, and we will highly recommend you on your spare time to click on those links and see the work they do. We have Clark Dolliver. He's a senior graphic designer at Finis Incorporation, and Keita Mantri is the head of design at 2. And Ricky Pascual, it's a business owner and designer at Dynamic Design and Print Solutions. And the one on top, it's his printing business, and the link on the bottom, it's his personal website for, doing the graphic design components. Jessica Lang, it's a graphic designer at Balsam Brands. And Daniel Waters is the founder and CCO of Design Sake Studio. And she also is the co-founder of This Is Matter, which is a company that she created during the pandemic. And I'm gonna show you here like briefly Jessica's website. And so, you know, like when you come to her website, go to the about, you know, like do the same thing for the other, you know, students that are part of this presentation. Then you can find out information about them. Sometimes they tell about their journeys. And then, you know, like see the different projects they have worked on, such as this sort of like invitation. And all these folks, when they came to us, they didn't know anything about like graphic design. They didn't know how to like draw or do page layout. And then they end up, you know, with this kind of results after, you know, like 7 courses. And then let's go back to the presentation here.
So what's next? Again, I hope you have been very inspired by our presentation today. So by attending to our info session today, you already created a free student account. The next thing that you would need to do is submit the online registration to be official in the program and enroll in your first class, which is our Visual Design Principles class. And also sign up for a monthly email that will keep you in tune in terms of our programs and our UC Berkeley extension activities, as well as some design or new courses that you may be interested in.
And also, like, you know, visual design principles is on this slide for those of you that might just want to take 1 course per semester. But if you want to take 2, then take the second one, which is Illustrator. If you want to do the program full time, then take the first 4 that are on the website. Here, you know, like during my portfolio class, I bring like different designers that are speakers, and that they also help and support our students with you know, a feedback session about their portfolio. What needs to be improved? What is good? What else can be changed? How can we make our projects better? And so we merge, you know, like different professionals that sit one-on-one with you in a breakout group, and then give you, you know, like 30 minutes of their time providing you feedback, and then we rotate. And it all depends how many guests we have in that particular evening. Sometimes people can be seen like 4 or 5 times by 5 different professional art directors, graphic designers, design managers, design directors, and creative directors. So like you will benefit greatly from that. And then like all the pictures that we show you in the presentation here are, you know, like our students' names. And do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. So one of the questions is that I'm currently signed up for first 2 classes, and I do have time to sign up for another course, but curious if you recommend students to get a foundation first or be able to better dive into the next course.
That's a very good question. And this is the thing, it all depends of your availability and also your time, right? Like if one is not working like full time, then it's okay to do the program on a full-time basis, right? Like each of our courses, like meet once a week for 3 hours, and also there are 6 hours of homework that are expected, right? That you in the class, you're gonna be exposed to, you know, like a concept, an idea, but then design gets better the more you do it. And so like every week there are different assignments that are gonna like help you like walk through the process of design, whether you're doing Illustrator or typography or whatever the subject matter might be. And so you just need to be aware of that there will be 9 hours of work for each course. So like if one is taking 2 courses, that's at least 18 hours. And if one is doing 4 courses, that will be a load of almost like working full time, right? Like that would be 36 hours a week. So just be careful with your decision when it comes to, you know, like time allocation and all of that is required to be successful. You don't have to rush it. We are here. We've been here since the 80s offering this program, and we're not going anywhere. If your idea is to do it part-time and taking 1 course per semester, that's totally fine with us.
Another question is, does the web design course include in UX and UI? So this is a more user experience certificate program question. We do have an info session going on for UX and UI on Wednesday. You could also register for that event as well. But in the meantime, I will have Yvonne answer that question.
Yeah, the web design, it's a required course in the graphic design, and it's an elective in the UX design program. And the idea with this course is that you will develop like HTML and CSS skills by hand coding a boutique website. And Pamela Wong will walk you through that. You know, she's an expert. She works for Ford Company, and all she does is, you know, like programming for the brand, right? And so she will walk you step by step. There are components of user experience, right? Like they work with InVision software or Sketch, depending of what you are more into. But the result is having a website by the end of the semester that, you know, technically speaking, give you skills for both graphic design and UX design.
So one last question is, do you provide career coaching?
We have a department at the university that it's the Career Services Department. Let me just walk you through there. So let me just go over here to our art and design website, and here our professional program in graphic design. And about that question, if you scroll down towards the bottom, then here is the Career Services Department. So just click on that hyperlink, and then they will be able to work with you. They offer like different workshops. They offer also like internships. So like if you are interested on an internship, you will contact them. And there's, you know, like career counseling, career development sessions, internships, and different events that they run, right? And so like we welcome you to come to the website and navigate depending of your interest and hit, you know, like some of those that might be, you know, that might interest you. And so here is, you know, like the experience of one student, right? Like they have a hyperlink over here for the professional internship program. So we welcome you to, yeah, come over here and find information. Another thing, let me go back. Want to show you the website briefly. So here, this is our landing page. Over here, you see the required courses, right? Sometimes we offer 2 sections, sometimes we offer 1 section per course. You will see the course description over here and some samples by previous students. And then there are 2 sections of this course. And one begins on September 7 until November 30th with Nancy as an instructor. And then the other one on September 20 to December 20th with Tom as an instructor. So if you click on their names, you will be able to see some, you know, biography about the instructors. When you click on the plus sign on the course outline, we'll give you the course objectives. What are some of the topics that you're gonna learn? And not everything is listed because it becomes like very long, but sort of like the most important aspects, we like place that info on the website. And what are the methodologies that you will learn? How will you learn the content? And then, you know, when you click on the section details, then it tells you what day of the week, what is the time, right, the date. And then if you schedule and location, then it tells you all of the different meetings with setup dates and your instructor name, and in this case is live online. And that brings me to the end of the presentation. So like, let me just bring this to, oops, slideshow. And then if you have any questions, you can contact us through this email address and the website.
Yeah, so our email address is extension-graphicdesign@berkeley.edu. Give us, if you have any questions that pop in your heads later, always send us an email. You will also get, as Ivan mentioned earlier, you will also get a recording in a couple of days once this is ready by our media team. So thank you everyone for coming. Have a good afternoon and take care.
Thank you, everyone.